He waited for the house to fall silent. That's always how it began. At first, I thought it was just the routine we'd fallen into. Thomas working late, me alone with my tea and the soft hum of the fridge. Nights got quieter over the years. Not peaceful. Just quiet. The kind of quiet where your thoughts start forming sentences you never say out loud. Thomas wasn't always like this. He used to look at me with a hunger, a curiosity. Lately, he looked through me. His hands barely brushed mine when he passed me a plate. His voice was steady, kind, distant. I told myself that was just what marriage looked like after 10 years. But I never believed it. Then Isabelle started coming over more often. At first it was casual. She'd bring wine, complain about Daniel, laugh a little too loud. She always lingered in the kitchen even after the music stopped. Her perfume clung to our cushions longer than her visit. She watched me sometimes, the way you watch something fragile to see if it'll break. One night, she asked, "Elena, do you ever feel like you're just waiting for something to crack?" I didn't answer. Daniel and Thomas had known each other longer than Isabelle and I had. That's how we met. Double dates, poker nights, beach weekends. They made an attractive couple, perfect smiles, perfect clothes, perfectly bored. Daniel had this way of talking like he already knew what you were going to say. It made me uneasy. But Isabelle? She was magnetic. Wild. She dragged you into her gravity. I started noticing how often Thomas would look at her, then immediately look away. How Daniel's compliments to me were always just a little too personal. I laughed them off, like any woman who's used to pretending a boundary wasn't just crossed. The real shift came when Thomas announced he had a trip. 3 days, a finance conference. He kissed my cheek and didn't meet my eyes. I watched him pack like he was preparing for war. Calm, mechanical. That night, the silence came faster than usual. Then Isabelle texted, "Wine night." I hesitated, then said yes. She showed up in a silk blouse and no bra. I told myself it was just Isabelle being Isabelle. But that lie didn't last long. We drank, we laughed, we fell into old stories. Then she said, "You ever think they're hiding something too?" I asked what she meant. She poured more wine. "Thomas, Daniel, they're not saints." I felt my pulse climb, not from anger, but fear. "Are you?" She leaned close. "Depends who's asking." She left after midnight. I watched her walk out in slow motion, like someone leaving a confession booth. I locked the door and stood there listening to the silence she left behind. The next day, Daniel dropped by to return Thomas's jacket. I hadn't realized he'd left one. Daniel didn't step inside, but his eyes lingered like he'd already been there. Something shifted after that. Not in events. In the air. That was the last week I thought I understood what was happening in my own home. I didn't know what was coming, but I could feel it in my skin. And when the house fell silent again, I wasn't the only one awake. The days that followed felt stretched thin, like something was about to snap. Thomas didn't call much from his trip. When he did, it was all surface: weather, meetings, the view from the hotel. I listened but barely responded. He didn't ask how I was. He didn't ask if I was alone. Isabelle came again, this time unannounced. She had that same bottle of wine, same careless smile, but something about her was different. More watchful. We sat in silence longer between words. "Do you trust Thomas?" she asked, finally. I didn't answer. I couldn't. Then she leaned back and said, "Daniel tells me things. Things I didn't ask to know." "What kind of things?" She just smiled, shook her head, and changed the subject. That night I checked Thomas's messages. Nothing. No texts from Isabelle. No photos. Nothing suspicious. Which somehow made it worse. It was too clean. Too careful. The next evening Daniel showed up. He didn't ask to come in. He simply stood in the doorway and looked at me like I was supposed to understand something. "Thomas left this," he said, holding out a small black notebook. It didn't look like anything Thomas owned. "He always said you had secrets," Daniel added. I never believed him. "What are you doing here?" He stepped inside without permission. His cologne filled the air, sharp, commanding. He didn't touch me. He didn't need to. Every word he spoke was a quiet dare. "Elena, you ever wonder why people really get married?" I stayed silent. "To see what it takes to break the vow," he said. He left without waiting for a response. That night, I sat alone with the wine Isabelle had left and the silence Thomas had mastered. I read the notebook. Nothing inside. Blank. Just like his calls. Just like the look in his eyes before he left. 2 days later, Isabelle invited me over. Just her, she said. No Daniel. No expectations. The house was dim. Candles. Music. A single glass waiting for me. She told me we were going to play a game. Truth or dare. Like we were girls again. Just one round, she said. Truth, I said. She leaned in. Do you want me? I swallowed hard. I didn't answer. That was an answer. Then the front door creaked. Daniel walked in. Neither of them looked surprised. Not at each other. Not at me. No one spoke for a long time. Then Isabelle took my hand. You can leave, she said, or you can see how deep this goes. I didn't move. My heart was loud. My body still. When the house fell silent that night, they both came to me. And I let them. They didn't speak when they reached me. They didn't need to. Isabelle's fingers brushed mine first. Then Daniel stood behind me. I should have moved. I didn't. It didn't feel real. It didn't feel like a choice. It felt like I'd already made it long before that moment, somewhere in the silences I ignored, in the nights I let pass with questions I never asked. Their touch wasn't rough. It was slow, measured, familiar, somehow. My breath caught, but I didn't stop them. I didn't stop myself. I don't remember what I felt first, shame or relief. All I knew was that I wasn't alone anymore, and I hated how much I needed that. We didn't talk afterward. Daniel left first. Isabelle stayed for a few minutes, watching me like she was trying to decide if I was real. Then she left, too. I sat in the kitchen until the sun came up, listening to the hum of the refrigerator, trying to pretend the world hadn't shifted under me. Thomas came home that afternoon. He kissed my cheek like always. I nearly flinched. I waited for the confrontation. For the question. It never came. He unpacked his bag. Ate dinner like nothing had changed. Then I saw his phone screen light up. A message from Isabelle. All it said was, "It's done." He didn't react. He just slid the phone into his pocket and looked at me for a second too long. I looked back. There was no anger in his eyes. No confusion. Just stillness. He knew. He'd known before I did. That night, I lay next to him in bed, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would wake him. But he never stirred. He didn't touch me. Didn't speak. In the morning, he made coffee, left it on the counter, and walked out the door without a word. The silence after he left was worse than any sound I'd ever heard. Isabelle didn't text again. Daniel didn't return calls. It was like they'd both stepped out of a play I wasn't told was ending. I stood in the middle of the kitchen, hands trembling, and realized I'd been set up. Not just by them. By him. He left me alone in a hollow marriage, gave me just enough rope, and waited. He wanted me to fall. And I did. I kept thinking, what kind of man watches his wife betray him, and says nothing? The kind that already left you long ago. I didn't see Thomas for 3 days after that morning. No calls. No messages. Just the echo of a slammed door and a cold cup of coffee. I checked the locks more than once, not because I feared he'd return, but because I feared he wouldn't. I cleaned the house out of habit, not purpose. Washed sheets I didn't sleep on. Scrubbed dishes I hadn't used. The silence pressed harder now. It wasn't peace. It was judgment. When he did return, he didn't carry a bag. Didn't step inside. Just stood in the doorway, eyes scanning me like I was a crime scene he didn't need to investigate anymore. I knew, he said. I always knew. I opened my mouth, but there was nothing to say. Words would have insulted the silence between us. He looked past me, to the hallway, the rooms behind me, then back. "You were never really mine," he said. Then he turned and left. This time, it felt final. I sat down and tried to piece it together. Where the line blurred, when the test began, who failed who? But the answers didn't come. Just memories, looping. A hand brushing mine. A kiss I didn't pull away from. A stare I held too long. No more Isabelle. No more Daniel. Like they'd been written out of the script once their roles were done. I called her once. Disconnected. His number rang, then silence. I understood then, I wasn't the victim. I was the finale. They didn't love me. They didn't want me. They wanted to watch me fall. And Thomas? He just waited. He didn't scream. He didn't hit. He didn't cry. He set the trap and let me walk into it. That's the kind of betrayal no apology fits. I tried to move on. But the silence clung to me. Every night, I waited for sounds that never came. No key in the lock. No footsteps down the hall. Just the hum of an empty house and my thoughts gnawing at themselves. Even in sleep, I saw their faces. Not accusing. Not cruel. Just entertained. I wasn't angry anymore. Just hollow. Some nights, I whisper his name. Not because I miss him, but because I want him to hear the echo of what he left behind. And every time the house falls silent now, I think of that night. I think of how they came to me. And I remember how quiet betrayal can be.